Story time with Mr. Limata. He will be starting soon. Oh, story time with Mr. Limata, where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't leave lonely, won't you start all the reading? I just can't wait to be hearing story time with Mr. Limata. He will be starting soon. Oh, story time with Mr. Limata, where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't leave lonely, won't you start all the reading? I just can't wait to be hearing.
Good morning and welcome to Storytime. Thank you for joining me. Happy Friday to you, wherever you're joining us from today. Thank you for being here. I am glad you're here for another amazing story and, of course, a wonderful guest with us today. Kim TOMSIC will be here with us on Storytime. And guess what? She is reading to us today, and also we will have a great conversation about this wonderful book and everything else about her work. So thank you so much for joining me today, and welcome to Storytime. Please, as always, let me know who is joining in with you and where you're joining us from. So thank you for being here. Happy Friday. I hope your week was a good one, and I wish you a wonderful weekend too. But of course, we have a story to read together, a wonderful story, a heartwarming story, a brilliant book to share together, and a wonderful guest to boot. Thank you so much for being here, and welcome to Storytime. Thank you. If you're on summer break like me, I hope you're enjoying it. I am enjoying mine so much, and I hope that yours comes soon if you have not started yet. Please do send in those questions and anything that you have to share with our guest today, Kim TOMSIC, and find out more about her. So thank you so much for joining in, and we have this wonderful book. The elephants are back. Yes, they are coming home today. Thank you so much for joining us. And of course, we're reading this one with permission of Chronicle Books of San Francisco. And also, this book is not done by Kim alone, but she worked with HADLEY HOOPER. So get ready and find out more about what it takes to create such a wonderful, wonderful book. Thank you for joining us. Please let us know where you're joining us from and who is joining in with you. And if you're on African time like me, you're still welcome. We will catch us as we go. Thank you so much for joining in. And very soon I will be bringing on Kim TOMSIC. Good morning to you, Amanda West. How are you doing today? Good to see you. And of course, Sarah and Nathan, never forgetting you. How are you doing today out in Illinois? And you say, well, we're celebrating our last day of first grade. Well, congratulations. And I hope you're looking forward to second grade. Good to see you. Thank you so much for sharing that wonderful news. Yes, moving on up. Thank you so much for sharing, Sarah and Nathan. And of course, good morning to you, Amanda West. Amanda, how are you doing today? Amanda Waltman, good morning to you. And of course, baby Bia, how are you doing today in cloudy, drizzly Seattle? I know I say this a lot, Amanda, but that does sound like Seattle, I know. I hope we're bringing you the warmth today on Storytime, and we have a wonderful guest. Hopefully she brings you the sunshine as well. Thank you so much for joining in, and I hope that drizzly cloudy Seattle soon opens up to some sunshine. Thank you for joining in, Amanda. And how are you doing, baby Bia, as well? Thank you so much for being here. Oh, Ellen, you're saying your Chicago is sunny today. How are you doing? Thank you so much for joining in. I am glad you are here, Ellen. Share some of that sunshine. Good morning to you. Kristen Mitchell, and of course, Borden. How are you doing out in Burlington, Vermont? Good morning to you. And you say Borden has a little cold, but Storytime is already cheering him up. Oh, that's my job done for the day. Thank you for sharing that, Borden. I am so glad you're here with us, even on a day when you're not feeling too great. I'm happy you're here, buddy. Thank you so much for joining in. Good afternoon to you out in Vermont. And of course, Chrissy, thank you as well. Good morning to you, Tori Gamble and Liana out in Bothell, Washington. Happy Friday to everyone, you say. Well, thank you so much. They hear you loud and clear. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime today, and welcome. And all the way out in Patagonia, Argentina, how are you doing today, Miss Ingrid? Good to see you here, and say congrats on a full week of amazing stories. Absolutely. And you know, today is another great story that awaits us. Thank you so much for joining in. And you and your reading club, Miss Ingrid, we wish you the very best. We wish you a wonderful weekend. Thank you for being here. Please, if you have any questions, any comments that you want to share with Kim TOMSIC, remember, she is here reading for us today. Please join me in welcome this wonderful, wonderful author, wonderful person joining us today. Kim, welcome to Storytime.
Wow, what an energetic introduction. Thank you so much. And hi, everybody from Phoenix, Arizona, where we'll probably reach 115. So anybody needing to borrow any heat, I'll be happy to send it your way.
Amanda, Bia, hear that?
Yes, I'll loan you a few degrees.
Wow, that is crazy. And I know, like, here, I think it's today they're saying it's going to be, I think, around 70, and I was saying, oh, it's too much.
That's funny. That sounds like a winter coat day to me.
Oh, man. Well, thank you so much for being here, Kim.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here. I'm so grateful that you invited me. I'm excited to share our book.
Yeah.
And yeah, do I just get started? What do I do?
Well, how does it feel, though, I'll just ask one question before you get started with the reading. How does it feel, though, because I know the day was coming when it was, like we're talking about it coming out, and then it did come out. Now has it been a month?
It has been May 18th, so not quite a month yet.
Not quite a month yet, yeah. So how does it feel? How have those days since May 18th been for you?
Busy and amazing. It sounds a little bit vain because I wrote the story, but it isn't my story. It's a true story, and I'm in love with it. And I couldn't wait to share it with the world. And so, yeah, I'm very, very excited about it.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Well, of course, we are so fortunate today to have you read to us today. And then we'll come back and have more conversation about this wonderful book and your work.
Sounds great.
All right.
Okay. Let's see here. I'm going to share my screen. So
yeah. Let's try this. Let's see how it goes.
Share screen. Share screen. I have to say it out loud to get there.
I love it.
Oh, look, it's going to work. Easy peasy. Wonderful. Yeah. Okay, I assume you see the screen because I no longer see you.
Yes, okay. I see the screen. You are great, but let's see. Let me add it there. There we go. We are on. I might have to change the background, but you're good.
Okay, so everybody can see now, and I can get started. Is that good?
Everybody can see. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm very, very excited to be here. On the side of the screen, that is beside your image, is what's called in books, it's called the end papers. And it's pretty special when a publisher lets you have end papers. And HADLEY HOOPER is the illustrator of this book. I just want you to appreciate her art as we go through this story. I am so in love with it, and I'm so happy that the publisher teamed us up when I wrote this book. All right, here we go. Oh, and before we get started, I wanted to share a photo with you guys of Nana. She is the matriarch elephant in this story. And after I wrote the story, I really wanted to get a few more interviews because with nonfiction, you really want to get everything right. And so my husband was going to Africa to rescue rhinos, and I asked him if he would also go to South Africa, to Thula Thula, Zululand, which is in, I think it's pronounced KwaZulu-Natal area, and to get one more interview with Francoise, who runs the game reserve at Thula Thula. And when he showed up, Nana, the matriarch, just walked out of the bushes and showed up too. And she could have been anywhere on 11,000 acres, and she showed up and greeted him. So I thought that was pretty special. All right, here we go. The Elephants Come Home, written by me, illustrated by the fabulous Hadley Hooper. This is Lawrence. He loves animals. This is Francoise. She loves Lawrence. This is Max. And this is Thula Thula, a farmhouse, a garden, a swimming pool, and 11,000 acres of African bush, savanna, and forest. Around Thula Thula stretch miles and miles of fences so the rhinos can splash the river. The impala, Cape buffalo, and zebra can graze the savanna. Even the crocodiles at the Guala Guala Dam can swim in peace. There is no hunting at Thula Thula. When spitting snakes creep into the farmhouse kitchen, Lawrence uses a soft broom to scoop them outside. When bark spiders weave webs between the patio furniture, Francoise tiptoes around them. And when monkeys steal cheese from Francoise and treats from Max, well, it's a monkey's job to find food, so nobody scolds them. One day, a lady telephones. Lawrence, she says, will you adopt a herd of angry elephants? Angry? Lawrence asks. They've been bullied and hunted, the lady says. Now they roar at the rangers and crush our fences. Folks are frightened. The herd might stampede through town. The village chief says it's a matter of safety. The herd must leave or be shot. Lawrence has never taken care of elephants, but he says yes, they may come to Thula Thula. To prepare for their arrival, he builds a boma, a wide corral with a strong fence where the elephants can live while they get used to their new home. He repairs the broken spots in the outer fence. Then he posts signs reminding the neighboring Zulu villagers, no hunting. Meanwhile, the elephants ride in a trailer past sycamore figs and acacia trees, beyond the Umfalozi swamp and along the Nessalini River. They bump over 1, 2, 3 railway tracks, and then down the dirt path where a sign points the way to Thula Thula. The elephants come. Down the ramp stomps the herd's leader, Nana, then little Mandela, big Frankie, and 4 others. They look at the unfamiliar farmhouse, its swimming pool, and the boma. They look at the strangers, Lawrence, Francoise, and the rangers. Right away, the elephants pound their hooves and trumpet angrily. They're naughty, the rangers complain. They're nervous, Lawrence says. Wouldn't you be if you moved far from your home? Everyone holds a breath and waits. Finally, the elephants calm their noises and tromp into the boma. That night, while Lawrence and Francoise sleep, Nana and Frankie heave their heads against a giant tamboti tree. They push and shove until the tree topples and smashes the boma fence. The elephants bulldoze forward and use their bodies to break the outer fence. Crash! The herd marches out of Thula Thula. At sunrise, a worker cries, "The elephants are gone! Oh no!" Lawrence looks for the herd by the Nephelini River. Francoise and Max look by the Guala Guala Dam. Word spreads and others look for them too. Hunters. Danger waits for the elephants outside the safety of Thula Thula. Lawrence's friend Peter has a helicopter and searches the thick jungle from the sky. Eureka! He spots the elephants in a grove of acacia trees. Still, the emergency isn't over. He has to convince the elephants to turn around fast. They are walking closer and closer to dangerous territory. Peter zooms close to the elephants over and over again, trying to herd them away. The elephants are unimpressed, but finally, inch by inch, the elephants turn back to Thula Thula. Back in the boma, the elephants bellow, throw dust, and flatten their ears. "They're dangerous," says the rangers. "They're sad," says Francoise. "They're still scared," says Lawrence. The herd approaches the repaired boma fence, ready to knock it down again, but Lawrence stands in front of them. "Nana," Lawrence says, "please don't go. If you leave, you, your baby, your herd will be hurt." Nana curls her trunk and lifts her ears. "Maybe you're worried about this new home and tired from the journey," Lawrence says. "But if you rest, I'll take care of you. I will live with you by day and camp with you by night. I will stay with you, and you will not be alone." Nana meets Lawrence's eyes for a moment. Then she turns away from the fence and leads the herd into the boma bush. The elephants stay. Lawrence builds a tent, and he and Max camp by the boma. He sings to the elephants during the day and tells them stories at night. Soon the elephants' cranky behavior changes to ear flopping, head waggling, and trumpeting. "What does it mean?" Francoise asks. "They're happy," Lawrence says. Lawrence and Nana get to know each other. They walk together and talk together, Lawrence with words, Nana with comfortable rumbles. One morning, Nana does something very special. She reaches her trunk through the gate and pats Lawrence's stomach. It's a sign of friendship. Lawrence knows he can trust the elephants now. At last, he opens the boma gates wide so the elephants can explore the pastures, rivers, and thickets of Thula Thula. The herd wanders off into the hills. They will graze the savannas. They will splash and play. They are home. Lawrence and Max move back into the house, and the elephants stroll to the lawn for regular visits. Nana likes eating from Francoise's garden, swimming in that pool, and clomping on the porch to pat Lawrence's stomach. And whenever Lawrence goes away, somehow the herd knows the exact moment of his return. They always come to the house just in time to greet him. Years go by, and the elephants spend more and more time far away in the part of Thula Thula where the best acacia trees grow. A 12-hour journey from Lawrence and Francoise's house. Lawrence and Francoise continue to live in the farmhouse, sweeping spitting snakes, tiptoeing around webs, and loving Max. Francoise's garden grows lush, and Lawrence's beard speckles with gray. The rhinos splash in the river, the cake buffalo grazed the savanna, and the crocodiles at the Guala Guala Dam swim in peace. Every few years, Nana and the herd come for a visit. Then, one sunny summer day, Lawrence dies. Somehow, deep in the bush of Thula Thula, the elephants know. They begin their trek toward Lawrence's home that very day. They journey past the Nestlini River and by the sycamore figs, across the savanna and beyond the Guala Guala Dam. They walk and they walk, and the elephants come. Francoise looks out her window as the herd forms a circle around the house. The elephants look at Francoise, make soft rumbles, and bow their heads. They spend the next 3 days there. The elephants live with Francoise by day and camp with her by night. They stay with her, and she is not alone. This photo is shared with permission from Francoise. And this is the real life Francoise and Lawrence Anthony. And this is Nana. And I'm not sure if that's Frankie and little Mandela. And this is the final photo my husband took as Nana turned and walked away. He discovered one more thing, that Nana has a genetic marker. Her tail is crooked. And so all of her offspring also have a crooked tail. And let's see here.
Wonderful.
Oh, I'm back.
Thank you so much. That was such a great reading and such a wonderful story. Still, you know, like no matter how many times I read it, it just still has the same impact. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you so much for letting me. It's truly a special story. I shared with you that I began this story 9 years ago, over 9 years ago. And so to see it out in the world today, after all the research, all the conversations, all the digging, I am just so happy to get to share this story.
Yeah.
And if anybody is interested in learning more about where these elephants are, it is Thula Thula, spelled with a TH, and you can go on their website.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I know, you know, just from you reading it and you talking about it right now, we get the sense of how special this book is to you. And I couldn't help but I noticed that this one is dedicated to your dedication is, you say, to Steve, Noel, and Cayman. Yeah, and then, you know, to your dad as well. And so I was just wondering, it's like, this is not your first book. I've not seen the dedications in the other ones. So I just wondered why this one got that dedication.
That's a great question. So you say it's not my first book, but it actually was my first book that I wrote and sold. However, I just needed to keep doing research. I needed to keep editing this. So then my other books came out, the 1111 Wish, the 12 Candle, and Guitar Genius came out before this story, but I chose to dedicate it to them because they're my herd, and they stood behind me and wanted to see me realize my dream of having a writing career. So,
oh, that's awesome. And also, you say 9 years. Were there frustrations at some points? Were there, you know, like, what were some of the highs and lows in that process for this book?
Oh, that's a great question. So when I initially wrote this story, I had already met my editor, Melissa Manlove. I met her at an international children's book writing conference called the SCBWI. And it happens to take place in California. People from, I think, usually around 46 different countries from around the world attend this conference. And I happened to get to meet Melissa, which was definitely exciting. And I won a scavenger hunt. And if you won the scavenger hunt, and I'm very competitive, then you could sit down and meet with Melissa, and your team of 5 people could meet with her and pitch something to her. So I pitched her an idea for something completely different. And that didn't work out. I think that was 2010. And then suddenly in 2012, I wrote her an email and I said, so Lawrence Anthony died in March of 2012. I saw a quote in the New York Times about him, and I began my research immediately, like right away. That connection between elephants and humans, or animals and humans, is so incredible. So I would spend hours and hours and hours digging and researching. And then when I wrote the first draft of this, not the first draft, but a draft that had passed muster with my critiquing group, I wrote an email to Melissa, and I'm like, I don't know if you remember me, but I'd love for you to take a look at this story. And so she did. And the high was that she looked at it even after meeting me 2 years ago. And the other high was she really liked it, but something was missing. So she rejected it with an invitation to revise and resubmit. And the something that was missing ended up being, so we went through this twice, like, no, sorry. And I just was like, okay, how about this one? The something that was missing was the heart of the story. And that was a place, so I provided all these interesting, details, like the fact that every time Lawrence Anthony would leave on a business trip, the elephants would meet him at his gate. Like somehow they knew when he was gone, and they knew when he got back. In fact, one time he missed his return flight home, and the elephants turn around in the jungle and go back out to the jungle instead of his gate. So they just knew. And so we were so fascinated by these details, but kids don't want to read details. They want a place to insert their feet into the shoes or the hooves of the main character. And suddenly I figured that out. And that was the big high of her telling me, yes, we're going to publish this. And I drove so fast home that I got a speeding ticket.
Oh, do you have that speeding ticket framed somewhere? I hope.
You know what? I should.
You should.
I need to find that. Another high was Hadley Hooper illustrating this. I don't know if you've seen the illustration of the book called The Iridescence of Birds, but it's incredible.
No,
it's you will love this. It's all about Henry Matisse and his mother. And it's a beautiful story. So when I found out Hadley was going to be the illustrator, I was very happy.
And that was, like one of the things too. Like, I'm glad you've shared your experience working with Hadley Hooper, because I love her Instagram handle, by the Hadley Who. It's just every time I say it, I want to sing it. I want to sing it every time.
Oh, good. You make the Hadley Who song. I'll sing it with you. I can't sing.
Same. I was like, no, I cannot sing it. And then, you mentioned Melissa as well, and I was going to ask about just how working with her has been. And then I know that it takes a team, it takes a village. It's not just, like we see you, but there've been so many people that have come in to work on the book. And so how has it been working with that team? And I saw too in the book you mentioned Eva Zimmerman, for example. I mean, I adore her, and I just think she's wonderful. The ultimate background person. Like, she pulls all the strings, but then you rarely see them. And so just wanted to know, like, who else was on your team that, I know it might be too many to mention, but like, who comes to mind? And
well, first of all, you mentioned Melissa. Melissa is a genius, and she's this quiet force, and she has so much brilliance in her. She is absolutely a genius, and she is probably one of the most generous people I know, because editors live these crazy busy lives. And it seems like every time there's a fundraiser for like hurricane situations, or I can't even name all the charity situations that Melissa has participated in, where Melissa will offer a critique or a mentorship or something if you bid on this item. And I've seen people bid on Melissa for thousands of dollars. In fact, I did a fundraiser called Kidlit for Haiti, because my father's charity is in Haiti. And so, again, she donated a critique, or 3 critiques it was, for that. So that was incredible. I would have 0 writing career if I didn't have a critiquing group. So shout out to my many critiquing partners, Will Limon, Elaine Pease, Penny Berman, Carissa Mina, Sally Spear, Brian Papa, Lawrence, oops, there goes my ear thing, Denise Vega, these guys, and Anna Harbor Freeman, she was also at the early part of the critiquing group. Such incredible help that you get from critiquing partners, because when you critique back and forth, when you're working on somebody else's work, it's easier to spot the good and the flaws that need working on, so that after you've spent an hour working on somebody else's work, now you know what to look for in your own. If you have a writer's tick, for example, and you're repeating, a word all the time, like and then I just, let me look for those and delete those out of my story.
Oh, no, that's great to know. And I think too that just some of the comments out there, and Ingrid in Argentina says, thank you for mentioning that. Like, kids, I believe they really need and want to see the connect with the characters in the story. And I think you did an amazing job with that. And speaking for myself, as a child, as a kid growing up in Zambia, like, that's a story that I could immediately relate to. It was places that I had seen, places that I knew, and even as I'm reading it for somebody who has not seen those places, the depiction of them, the representation of them is so accurate that warmed me out, especially because not all the time that Africa and like, we tend to be brushed in broad strokes. And so I felt like that really touched on something, a particular piece of Africa, and it talked about it so well. So
thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And then
I wanted to also comment on that. For everybody is going to find a different placeholder. Like, I love that you found that. For me, when I was writing this story, I moved a ton as a kid because my father was in the Air Force. So we moved and we moved and we moved. And as a child, of course, I didn't get a say so. And same thing with this herd of elephants. They were displaced. They were booted out of one wildlife reserve after the other because they were said to be naughty, when really they were angry. They were angry at, being hunted, and they were angry at being forced to move. And so that placeholder might be, wow, I had to move too. Or that placeholder might be, I had to learn trust, and trust can be safely given away.
Right. No, absolutely. And there's another comment too for you from Chrissy, and it's just, like, just appreciating the book, the illustrations, and the whole story. And that brings me to when did you hear about Francoise and Lawrence and their work? Like, when was that initial introduction? Yeah,
so that first connection, I was living in Boulder, Colorado. I was in a core power yoga class. Suzanne was the teacher. Lawrence Anthony had just passed away, and Suzanne read a single quote from the New York Times, or maybe she read a quote, and I don't really remember, except that she said, "We are all connected." And that connectedness really, like, I just actually wanted to get out of my down dog and run home and do my research, because I was so fascinated by it. And yet I am curious why I'm so fascinated, because if I'm sad, my dog is going to come hunt me down in the house and lay right beside me. Animals just are connected in a way that is beyond what we can actually explain. So that was my first introduction, was hearing that quote. And then, of course, I read everything. I watched everything I could find online, everything I could find on YouTube with them. And then after a fair amount of time, then I reached out to Francoise.
Yeah.
And then the final interview was live with my husband and Francoise and my sister-in-law. The three of them met.
That's awesome. Yeah, I noticed you mentioned that in the book. And have you, and also, you know, like, I can't help but as I read, and I don't know who's listening out there, like if you've seen the movie Holiday in the Wild. It's with Kristen Davis and Rob Lowe, and it is set in, of course, like it's supposed to be set in Zambia, but I see elements where it's like, oh, this is South Africa. And like with movies, like any other movie, they bring that, but it's just such an interesting one. As I read this one, it brings a little bit of those elements, and it just kind of reminds me of that. It's like how also just this piece of home that I can kind of clutch onto and hold on to. And then also there's another one, which is, I guess this one is more on the kind of like sad side, because it's, I don't know if you've seen the book Elephant Song by Wilbur Smith. And it talks about, you know, like the troubles with poaching and all that goes on. So in your research, as you were going through this, what were some of those things you found out? How much more appreciation, how much did your appreciation grow for Francoise and Lawrence's work as you were researching more and more into it? My appreciation just skyrocketed, because elephants had not lived in Zululand, South Africa for over 100 years. And so first, Lawrence had to approach the village chief and get permission to bring them in. And that was a big deal. He had to hire somebody to tell him if the boma, which is a corral, was created and then he had to make it up as he went, because he knew he never had elephants. And so that whole standing in front of her and connecting with Nana on that way, when Nana reached through the gate, the wires, and touched his stomach, that was actually very, very risky. She could have just taken him. This is an elephant's trunk, in case you were wondering. So she could have and he just wanted them to feel safe and taken care of. And it's such a beautiful spirit to do that. Francoise is really working hard to rescue rhinos, because of all the rhinos on our planet, we only have 1% left. Wow.
1%. So in fact, the rhinos are so connected with Francoise that when my husband and my sister-in-law finished their interview with her, all of a sudden there was a big commotion going on, and somebody was calling her on the radio, and my husband said, "What's happening?" And he goes, "Those rhinos, they don't like when I leave town, so now they're all blocking the gate for her car, so she couldn't even leave."
Yes.
But yes, it must be exhausting work.
Yeah.
And yet she is constantly showing up for it.
That's amazing. And, I know you mentioned you did calls, you did reading, you did interviews. And like, at what point did you feel, well, I think maybe now this is the time I should check in with Melissa? Or like,
every time I questioned something, and then I'd reach out to Francoise, or I'd reach out to one of her rangers. I think his name was Alfie, and then there was also Portia. They would get back in contact with me, and I would feel like anytime there was anything I questioned, because it's nonfiction, I would readdress it. And then if there was a little edit, Melissa would be like, okay. Thankfully, Chronicle Books has an amazing copy edit team, and they go through with a fine-tooth comb to make sure, are you sure this is the date? Are you sure this is the spelling? Are you sure these are the people? I mean, even Hadley, who is the illustrator, well, I say even, of course it makes sense. I've never thought from the perspective of an illustrator, but she reached out to me and said, do you know what biome is at Thula Thula? And I was like, wow, great question. And I happened to have a photo of a sign that shows the vegetation, the animals you could expect, but I also still reached out to one of the rangers to ask.
Yeah. And was it planned that your husband and your sister-in-law, and was it planned that they would go and do the interview in South Africa, or how did that work? How did that come about?
So they were going to a secret location to rescue the rhinos. And I don't know how my husband convinced this group that he's like, I'm a big animal fan. Not a big animal, but he's just a big fan. But he said, I'm a big animal fan, and I'd really like to get involved in helping. And somehow he was allowed on board. And so he's planning his trip. And in the meantime, I'm reaching out to Francoise saying, could my husband come for one face-to-face interview, take photos at these designated locations, and also give you a copy of the manuscript so you can read it and correct me if anything is wrong. That was like that final checkbox.
Yeah.
And so I said to him, after I got that agreed upon, I said, hey, while you're in secret location number 1, will you go to Zululand, South Africa for me? And he's like, Africa's a huge continent. And I was like, you owe me, fella. You can do this thing for me. And so it was like, okay, I will do it. And it's one of the treasured moments of his life. He really felt special about that interview.
Oh, that's
and
awesome. Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. And also just, what was something that surprised you through this whole process, or just surprised you with the making of the book itself? I mean, maybe the way it came out.
Right. Well, in the surprise and the research, I really wanted to understand like how elephants communicate. And so I went to different websites. I was a fan of The Dog Whisperer. I don't know if you've ever watched that series or that TV show.
No.
It's a reality TV show where a man helps train dogs. And I was such a fan of that I read Lawrence's book. He has a book, by the way, an adult book. It's called The Elephant Whisperer. And so after reading that, I was so fascinated with it that I wanted to learn more. And I was interested that elephants communicate with like these soft rumbles that they make. And I wish there was a decoder so we could learn about that. Also in research, I was really fascinated that when elephants passed bones of an elephant that had died that belonged to their herd, they'll pick them up and they'll rub them on their body. If they pass bones of another elephant, they will just pass them. But if it's somebody from their herd, they'll circle it and they'll rub them on their body.
Yeah.
But the most surprising thing was
more surprising than that.
The most surprising thing was that I was reaching out to Francoise after, some years went by.
Right.
And it was year 3. I was like, did the elephants come back? So the elephants returned to her house at the exact hour on the exact day of his death, 3 years in a row, and circled the house again. And then the 4th year, I asked her, did they come back? And I think she said something like, elephants are kind of gathered around, but it's a leap year, so I think they're confused. And I thought that was a funny answer. But 3 years in a row, she said it was supernatural feeling.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And like that connection that you talk about, it's amazing to think of it like that. Like how 3 years. That's mind blowing.
And by the way, can I just say one more thing?
Yeah.
In all the gratitude for this book, it is Francoise that deserves the most gratitude. She was so helpful. So I didn't mention that because I just took it for granted. So there it is.
No, thank you for bringing out her story. And I noticed too that in the book you mentioned that she has written a book as well, right? And,
yes, she's written a book called There's an Elephant in My Kitchen.
Right.
And I believe the story is that a 4-day-old elephant got separated from the herd and so wandered into her kitchen of all places. So check that out.
And was it from the same herd from Nana's herd, or was it a different?
Yes. So they've only had one herd at Thula Thula. Well, actually, I don't know if they've brought in additional elephants. The herd is now 28 elephants.
Yeah, that's amazing.
From 7.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And to think too that it found its way. And which brings me to this question that Ellen put out. I don't know if you've been following that. Yeah, so she's, like I'm sure just wanted a comment from you on like what your thoughts were on that. And
hi, Ellen. So the group of elephants in China, I'm riveted by that. I wish I could read minds. So I've heard some say the matriarch is young and she doesn't actually know what she's doing, but I don't have a theory.
Yeah.
I mean, what happens is my fiction side of my brain wants to create, like she's on this grand tour, she has this destination and she has to get this job done by this ticking time clock, and I would love to know that. And so it sounds like their plan now. For those of you who don't know, there's a herd of elephants that have wandered out of a sanctuary in China, and they're just going to town. They are. And so it sounds like the plan is they're putting blockades and encouragement to get them to go back.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's amazing. I'm glad that there's also just such global coverage and like interest, and hopefully that keeps them safe as that's amazing. Yes. And then
that's a great point.
Yeah. And Amanda, I think, is ready to take you up on your offer.
All right, there. I'm going to open my door and just send it outside. You've got it, Amanda. Perfect.
Well, Kim, it's been amazing having you here on Storytime and just your wonderful insight into, I think 9 years of writing this book and then doing other books in the meantime, and the research that goes into it. And, I hope that those people out there who are listening, people who are, wishing to be writers themselves and get a glimpse of what the work can be like. And then, but I just wanted you, at end of it or two, what advice do you have there for those aspiring writers, those aspiring authors, and also the little kids that we have out there? Yeah.
So firstly, for the little kids about this book, there are a lot of feelings that happen. There are things that you're excited about, and there are things that feel really sad. And at the end of the day, I hope kids find that somebody to talk to and realize that your emotions are valid. Your emotions are worthy. And I hope you talk to a trusted adult in your life about what you're feeling and explore that. For writing advice, so if you're a children's book writer, my number one piece of advice first is to read. Read. And if you're writing children's books, read children's books. If you're writing romance novels, read a bunch of romance novels. Read in your category. And then the second thing I would do is I would join an organization that helps you grow in that area. So specifically for children's book writers, the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. Oh my gosh, they're another thank you. I would not have a writing career without them. So I'm so grateful for Lynn Oliver and Steve Mosier, who started that organization, which is over 50 years old now.
Wow.
And then number 3 piece of advice is join a critiquing group. Don't be precious about your work. Listen to a critiquing group and decide. And critiquing groups might be like dating until you find that right group for you. And it can't be a group that just says everything you do is brilliant. And it's just, right? The group needs to challenge you, and they need to give you feedback in the sandwich method, which is telling you something positive and specifically why, giving you critical feedback, meaning, I don't really believe this character, and here's why, and you give the specific reasons why, because you can't just say, I don't like this character. You have to go specific, and then you close with something positive.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. Wonderful. Thank you so much. I think with that bit about emotions that you mentioned for the kids, it's so powerful, because I found it too, like even as we were going through the pandemic, as adults, we knew what was going on. We're making decisions. We're able to make decisions about our lives. But here are little ones who are just going through at times not being able to make decisions, and just, this is what we're doing. School is closed. Or you can't go to the park, you can't do this. And just imagining how, if we could take a moment as adults to talk to the kids, and hopefully the kids out there too that are listening, take that advice and really reach out to those trusted adults in their lives. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah. And I think it was,
and then I was just going to give a plug for animals and for the environment and for Earth. Like we could just keep going on.
No, absolutely. I appreciate it. Wonderful book indeed. Please find it at your local library. Find it where you get books. The Elephants Come Home. A beautiful, wonderful story. Heartwarming, as you can see the connection. And also you can just tell it's made with lots of love. Thank you so much, Kim, for joining us today and sharing this wonderful work with us. And we'll hope to see you again on Storytime and see your work. Follow her. Please go to the website, kimtomsic.com. And also you find her on Instagram at Kim TOMSIC. I was going to make that mistake after I went the whole time without doing it. I always want to say Tom Kimsich. I don't know why, but
you were so close.
So close. Please do find her on Instagram and also follow. But thank you so much for being here, and I'll catch you in the backstage. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Everybody joining in story time today. That was the fabulous, the amazing Kim TOMSIC, and you got to learn more about this wonderful book that we read today, and of course learn a little more about her work as well, the research that goes in. And yes, to all aspiring authors out there, you know a little bit more about what you need to do. And also, yes, paths are different, but absolutely great insight coming in today. And of course, the team behind you, the critique, the people that help you, that are, give you edits, give you feedback. That feedback is absolutely important. And for you, the kids out there, please find those supports, reach out to those adults, share what you're feeling so we know, and hopefully we can get the help that is needed. Great advice there from Kim TOMSIC. Amazing book, great advice, great person. I am absolutely honored to have had her here today on Storytime. I hope you learned a thing or two. And for those of you that are joining us with the recording, please do follow Kim TOMSIC. And of course, find your book. Find that book at your local library. Find it at your local bookstore. And remember that you can get signed copies too if you go to changinghands.com. Thank you so much for joining us today. A big thank you to Kim TOMSIC, and of course HADLEY HOOPER, who we hope one day can join us as well. And of course, a big thank you to Chronicle Books of San Francisco. This has been Storytime for today. This has been Storytime for this week. Amazing personalities here with us. Amazing books. Wonderful indeed to share time together. I wish you a wonderful weekend. Much love from me, and I will be back again on Monday with more amazing books. Please take care of yourselves. Hugs and kisses to each and every one of you, and remember those special moments that you have with your people in the community. Please remember that your every little thing that you do matters. Every little thing that you do is important. So go out there and make that difference. Thank you so much for joining in today. Much love from me, and bye-bye.
Look like me, others very different from the way that I look and think. Read me all of your stories. Read me all of your stories. Some stories from far away, others right here in my neighborhood. Read me all of your stories. Read me all of your stories. Some with people who look like me, others very different from the way that I look and think. Read me all of your stories. Read me all of your stories. Some stories from far away, others right here in my neighborhood. Story time. Ooh. Story time. Story time with Mr. Limata. He will be starting soon. Story time with Mr. Limata, where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't live lonely, won't you start all the reading? We just can't wait to hear him. Brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't live lonely, won't you start all the reading? We just can't wait to hear